The disciples are returning from going around villages, preaching the gospel and healing the sick. Now the apostles gather around Jesus and report to him all they have done and what they have been teaching. They also share together the news that John the Baptist has been executed by King Herod. In between, people are coming to Jesus and going. The disciples and Jesus don't have even a chance to eat. Jesus says to the disciples, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." It is so important to have rest as well. That's why God gave us one day of rest each week as well. Now Jesus and the disciples go away by themselves in a boat. They sail to a quiet place on the other side of the Lake of Galilee. But many people see them leaving. They say to each other, "Do you see Jesus and his disciples go to the other side?" They know about the healing miracles Jesus has been doing. They say, "Let's follow them." A lot of people from all towns run on foot around the coast to meet Jesus on the other side. They get there ahead of Jesus and the disciples. When Jesus arrives, he sees a large crowd. He has compassion on them, because they are like sheep without a shepherd. They need help. Jesus and his disciples go on a hill. There they sit down. Jesus begins to teach the people many things about God's kingdom. He also spends time healing the sick. There are around 5,000 men in the crowd, plus women and children. When it is late in the afternoon, the disciples come to Jesus. They say, "This is a remote place, and it is already very late. Send the people away, so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and the villages. They need to buy themselves something to eat and find a place to sleep." But Jesus answers, "You give them something to eat." "What? How is that possible? There are so many people." Jesus turns to Philip to test him and asks, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" Philip answers, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Then Jesus asks his disciples, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." When they find out, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, speaks up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" Jesus says, "Bring them to me." The boy gives all he has. Do you see? Nothing is too small to offer it. Jesus says, "Have the people sit down in groups." There is plenty of green grass in that place. So the people sit down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Jesus takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looks up to heaven and gives thanks for the food. Do you thank God for all the food you receive every day? Look at Jesus' hands. He starts breaking the bread. He breaks off pieces and gives them to the disciples so that they can distribute the bread to the people. He does the same with the fish. Do you see the disciples going around with bread and fish? Everyone can eat as much as they want until they are no longer hungry. When everyone is satisfied, Jesus says to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." I hope you also never will throw away food. So the disciples gather everything that is left over. They fill 12 baskets with the pieces of bread and fish left over by the people who have eaten. Can you imagine? That is far more than the little boy offered. What a miracle! The people who have seen this sign Jesus performed say to each other, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Who do you think Jesus is? Then Jesus tells his disciples to get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismisses the crowd. After Jesus has sent the people away, he goes up on a hillside by himself to pray. Do you see? Jesus wants to talk with his Father in heaven. To pray is so important. When you see that even Jesus does it, how more do we need to do this? Will the disciples know that as well?